Now, the race for the White House has moved to the state of New Hampshire as candidates compete for their party's nominations. Voters in the tiny town of Dixville Notch were the first to cast their ballots at midnight. They picked Bernie Sanders for the Democratic Party and John Kasich for the Republicans. Voting has begun in some other parts of the state. While Lorna Shaddick is covering this story from a very cold-looking Manchester in New Hampshire and joins us now. So, Lorna, the polls show Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders in the lead for the Republicans and the Democrats, respectively. Is that the expected result?
Well, what is so exciting about the race here in snowy New Hampshire is that you just never know. The voters here are notoriously unpredictable, and not for nothing is this state known as the graveyard of pollsters. The polls are often wrong. As you said, Dixville Notch, all the way about 3 hours or so north of here in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, has already cast its ballots. They went overwhelmingly for Bernie Sanders, 4 votes to 0, none going to Hillary Clinton. And on the Democratic side, Ohio Governor John Kasich just edging out Donald Trump. He got 3 votes, Donald Trump got 2 votes. But it has to be said, Dixville Notch isn't usually a very reliable indicator of what is going to happen in New Hampshire overall. The pollsters do say at the moment Donald Trump still comfortably ahead on 31%. Marco Rubio in second place, well behind on 17%. Ted Cruz, who of course won in Iowa last week, is on 14%. And Senator Sanders still a commanding lead over Hillary Clinton. He's on 61% to her 35%. But of course, as I say, very unpredictable here in New Hampshire. It is all to play for still here in the Granite State.
Well, Lorna, just give us an idea as to exactly how these primaries are different from the Iowa caucuses that happened just a few days ago.
They are indeed very different. 3 big factors to take into account that is different from Iowa. First of all, this is a primary, not a caucus. That means the process of voting is different. It's a lot simpler, in fact. People do go to the polling stations between about 7 in the morning and 7 in the evening to cast their ballot in a much more normal fashion. That means they don't have to be in one place at one time, unlike in Iowa. So the turnout tends to be higher because it's easier to understand and easier to get to the polls. Even if you have a job during the day, you can go before or after work. So that's one reason. Another is the electorate, which is a very different makeup from Iowa, a rural farming state where over 60% of the electorate identifies as evangelical Christian. New Hampshire, meanwhile, in a recent study was shown to be the least religious state in the US. So a very different electorate in that respect. And Ted Cruz, who won big in Iowa and makes a big deal of his religious convictions, may not do so well here as a result. Also, the electorate a lot younger. A quarter of the electorate in Iowa is over 65, as opposed to around 15% here in New Hampshire. But crucially, the final third reason why New Hampshire is different is the undeclared voters. Around 44% of voters here aren't registered with either party, but they can still vote in one or other primary. That means that you have lots of people who haven't made up their minds for one party or another, let alone one particular candidate, who can go and cast their ballots. So there's a big undecided factor, and it's those votes that many of the candidates are after as people make their way to the ballot boxes today here in New Hampshire.
Well, Lorna, thank you for now, and keep warm.